Hello, this is History on your Doorstep. I'm Michael McGee. On today's show, we're going to look at the Irish War Memorial Garden at Islandbridge off the South Circular Road here in South Dublin.
I remember the day, it stands clear in my mind. We stood down at Dunleary to wave you goodbye. Your ma was quietly weeping, there was a tear in my eye, as they sent you to Gallipoli to die. You looked so young as you stood there, it glint in your eye, and you sang rebel songs as the streamers flew high. Your ma turned away and I heard a sigh. God, you're sailing to Gallipoli to die. You were all that we had, your mammy and me. When he marched to the wreck, you were proud as could be. And it killed your poor ma, and it slowly killed me. When you were blown, the kingdom come on the shores of Gallipoli.
On August the 4th, 1914, under a commitment she had given to support the invaded Entente powers of France and Russia, the United Kingdom of Great Britain declared war on the Central Powers of Germany and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and World War I, otherwise known as the Great War, commenced.
You were all that we had, your mommy and me. When you marched to the wreck, you were proud as could be. And it killed your poor ma, and it slowly killed me. When you were blown, the kingdom come on the shores of Gallipoli.
This resulted with a huge outpouring of excitement and nationalism throughout Europe on both sides of the European theatre of war, with enthusiastic young men from Berlin to London, Paris and Vienna queuing to enlist, to fight for King or Kaiser, in a war the majority believed and expected to be over by Christmas, with their own side victorious. Back in Dublin though, nationalist Ireland had just achieved constitutional self-government, as had been reflected in the Third Home Rule Bill, which had been placed on the statute books with royal assent on September 18, 1914. The operation of this bill was, however, suspended for the duration of the war, but the promise was there, and so, on September 20th, the leader of the Irish Parliamentary Party, John Redmond MP, called on the Irish volunteers, which totalled up to 180,000, to enlist in Irish divisions of Britain's new army in support of the Allied war effort at a time of heightened emotions, as the swift German advance through a neutral and must be added Catholic Belgium was threatening Paris. 12 soldiers beside me, in a rush to enlist. We want to fight, kill and die for you. Sir, will you grant us our wish? Poor Belgium stands heroically, brave France by her side. With a promise of comradeship, we'll help change the tide. And so they marched off to try and change the tide. In fact, in the first year of the war, it has been estimated that 80,000 Irish men joined up, while it has also been estimated that approximately half of these soldiers were from what later became known as the Republic of Ireland. They were recruited into the Irish regiments of the 10th Irish Division and the 16th Irish Division, while there was also the 36th Ulster Division, which consisted of troops accumulated from the Ulster Volunteers. all Irishmen, Unionist or Nationalist, but fighting bravely side by side against the Kaiser. But there were other regiments and armies of whom Irishmen enlisted, including the London Irish, the Irish Guards, and the Tyneside Irish, while there was even further battalions throughout the UK, in England, Scotland and Wales, where the names of many Irishmen could be found among their ranks. And further afield there were also the armies of the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa, under whose flags there was a large contingent of Irishmen proudly standing alongside the troops of their adopted country. Believing wholeheartedly in what they were fighting for, brothers, friends, neighbours all rushed together to enlist, and before they knew it they were marching resolutely to a terrible adventure in an arena created in hell, and which found a home on the European continent, a forever lasting nightmare none of them could possibly have dreamt man to be capable of. 12 soldiers beside me, in a march to the fight, hell's fire and fury, unleashed with all might. Our battle's cry is anguish, blood-red waters of the Somme. These horrors now scares me. I'm not the only one. Overall, it has been estimated that 300,000 Irish men and women fought in the various Allied armies throughout the First World War, and they found action on the different battlefields. There was Gallipoli in 1915, where the Royal Dublin Fusiliers were involved in the fighting along with the Royal Munster Fusiliers and the Enniskillen Fusiliers, while Irish troops also saw action in Salonika and St. Julian in 1915. And then there was the slaughter at the Somme, which involved in its nightmare the 36th Ulster Division, who fought next to the 1st Royal Dublin Fusiliers. On the same battlefield there was also Irish participation involving the 1st Royal Irish Rifles, the 1st Royal Irish Fusiliers, the 2nd Royal Irish Regiment, the 1st Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers and the 2nd Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers. While this was dragging on though, there was some success when the 16th Irish Division captured Gilmont on September the 2nd and Ginchy on September the 9th. It resulted with a London newspaper issuing a headline which read, "How the Irish took Ginchy, splendid daring of the Irish troops." After that, there was the Battle of Messina in 1917, during which the 16th Irish and the 36th Ulster Divisions fought alongside each other to capture the village of Wyschgat in Belgium, while it is also remembered that the 16th Irish and 36th Ulster lost more than half their numbers during the bloodbath that was Passchendaele, when under the command of General Sir Hubert Gough, again in 1917.
When I was a young man, I carried my pack, and I lived the free life of a rover. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty outback, I waltzed my Matilda all over. Then in 1915, my country said, "Son, it's time to stop rambling, 'cause there's work to be done." So they gave me a tin hat and they gave me a gun, and they sent me away to the war. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as we sailed away from the quay. And amidst all the tears and the shouts and the cheers, we sailed off for Gallipoli.
12 soldiers beside me, in a field of lost souls, beaten bodies lay discarded. We've played our last roles. God in heaven, I beseech you to listen to my dying prayer. Let my sacrifice have a meaning, and bless all that lie here.
We were were butchered like lambs at the slaughter.
It was said that it was the war to end all wars, and at the end of the conflict, nobody suspected that the stage was set for an unknown Austrian, who had been a corporal in the German army on the Western Front, would rise from the ashes of a defeated nation to lead Europe and the world to another global struggle, with an even more damning level of death and destruction. And so instead, the protagonist nations of the Great War collectively began to come to terms with the loss of a generation, while building for a new and surely peaceful future. But in remembering the fallen, it was rightly viewed as honourable to construct a lasting memory, and so throughout France, Belgium and all over the UK, memorials were erected, centre-paths were constructed, forgotten soldiers were dedicated, and poppies were planted to the remembrance of the sacrifice the Allied battalions gave. Everywhere except in Ireland for a time, where another fight for freedom and independence was taking place, and the last thing on a lot of people's minds was to remember the dead who had been fighting for the British Army. However, eventually something was done about commemorating the Irish war dead, and after a few false dawns, the War Memorial Gardens in Islandbridge in Inchicore was gradually constructed by the Irish authorities to presently become the wonderful remembrance it is today. In any season, the tranquility and stillness, sadness, yet triumphant valour shown by these brave Irish soldiers who fought and died for a noble cause is felt there in equal measure. Their courage and strength, their sense of honour, the tragedy of their falling, the history of their lasting participation in a worldwide conflict, is solemnly remembered along with their memory. To experience the different emotions the War Memorial Gardens have to offer can be special, and I want to give you, the listener, an idea of this. So I went along there with my microphone and the kind permission of the Office of Public Works, who oversee the maintenance of the gardens, to talk to Park Ranger Michael Farrelly, whose expertise on the War Memorial and its significance is fascinating. He first gave me a quick history of the place.
The War Memorial is situated on the south side bank of the River Liffey, as Michael said, just opposite the round clubs of UCD and Commercial. Now the reason for the park here was the park was designed by Sir Edwin Lutyens in 1930, and work commenced on the park from 1933 to 1939. The reason for the park is dedicated to the 49,400 Irish that died at the First World War. Now, up in the main gardens we have 4 granite rooms, they're known as the 4 book rooms. They're up on the main centre lawn, and in the centre of the lawn there's 2 large water fountains. And with each side of the water fountains, there's 2 large rose gardens, and they hold 4,000 roses, 2,000 roses in each garden. Now, getting back to the 4 book rooms of the War Memorial, in one of the rooms holds the Ginchy Cross, which is from the Battle of Ginchy from 1916, and the other room on the right hand side holds the names of the 49,000 on 8 volumes of books. The room on the left hand side over here on your left holds uniforms and medals of the First World War. And the last room on the left holds Second World War memorabilia. The symbolism of the Rose Gardens, Edwin Lutyens was the main architect of the British government in the 30s, the 20s and the 30s. This was his main job here in Ireland. One of his other jobs was Haywood House in Laois and Revelstoke House on Lambay Island. And wherever you get Lutyens' work, you're more likely to get symbolism within his work, especially in war memorial parks. Now, the 2 fountains that we can look down are here on our left and right. They represent us. In the top of those 2 fountains, there's a large obelisk, stone obelisk in the top bowl of the fountain, and they represent the candlesticks. And if you look down, you can see the War Stone, Rudyard Kipling's lyrics on the War Stone. Their name may live it forevermore. That represents the altar. So what you have the 2 fountains left and right, with the obelisks in the centre of the fountains, which represents the candlesticks to the altar. And then you have the great sacrificial cross here made of granite, looking straight down to the altar. On the left and right hand side of the book rooms, you have the 2 sunken rose gardens, and they more or less represent the amphitheatre, the battlefield.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any cannons or anything like that. Is that purposely?
That's purposely done in Lynn Lutyens' symbolism. There's no weapons of war displayed. It's mainly symbolism itself. And you can look on down, then you can see the temple on the main avenue down there.
Yeah.
And on the roadway leading down to the temple, you've 16 lime trees on left and right hand side of the road leading down to the temple. And there, that represents the 16th Irish Division that fought at the First World War.
Yeah.
The divisions that fought from Ireland in the First World War were the 16th Irish, the 36th Ulster, the 10th and the 9th Irish.
Yeah.
They were the main battalions that fought at the First World War. The 16th Irish was under the command of Major General Bernard Hickey from North Tipperary.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. Let's have a look in the book rooms then.
Up to mighty London came an Irishman one day, as the streets are paved with gold, for everyone was gay, singing songs of Piccadilly, Strand and Leicester Square. If Paddy got excited, then he shouted to them there, it's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go, it's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know.
Mike, we're here in one of the book rooms. There's 8 books. They're elaborately decorated, and to have the names of the 49,500 dead.
That's right, Michael. We're now here in the first book room. As Michael said, they're in glass cases, 8 volumes of books. The books hold 49,400 Irish men and women who died in the First World War. They're all set out here in alphabetical order. So if any member of the public wishes to look up their great-grandfather or grandfather that was killed in the First World War within an Irish division or within an Irish battalion, we can look up the names alphabetically here and try find his name. And it's also possible to get a page of the books printed out with the relative's name within the page, and that is also free of charge.
There's beautiful decorations along the edges of this. I mean, they're fantastically done up. Who's the illustrator?
Well, the illustrator is Harry Clark. People will be more familiar with Harry Clark's work on stained glass windows, churches in particular. Bewley's in Grafton Street, the windows in Bewley's in Grafton Street were designed by Harry Clark. His main work was for the United Nations, the Geneva window for the United Nations. But he was commissioned by the Irish government here in the early part of the century to do the book bindings of the dead of the War Memorial here at the park here itself. And you can see that within the books, you can see Celtic motif and Irish battalion badges, and military activity like aircraft and so on, ships and so on within the books.
There's also a visitor's book here. There's a lot of dignitaries, I'm sure, that's already signed into this.
Yeah, well, over the year we'd have different commemorations going on within the park, or different tours and colleges and so on come in to the park.
Yeah.
And we take them around, whether it be one individual or 100 individuals, we take them around and give them a guided tour of the book rooms. And they would sign the book to say what date they were here and what they thought of the park, a comment on the park itself. And you can see yourself there, Michael, there's politicians and people from all over the world. You can see one there, Canada, Australia, South Africa and so on. You can see you down through the park who have come on a guided tour or an individual tour of the park.
Absolutely wonderful. Mike, we're here in the book room that has the Ginchy Cross, huge cross. Can you tell us more about the Ginchy Cross?
Yeah, the Ginchy Cross was taken from the Battle of Ginchy in Guillemont, which took part from the 3rd to the 9th of September 1916. Now, what happened at the Battle of Ginchy was 4,500 Irish were killed at the Battle of Ginchy, and the remainder of the battalion went back to an old Belgian farmhouse and took the rafter from the roof and carved the cross from the rafter of the roof and placed it on the battlefield. Now, we have a photograph over here on the right hand side, Michael, of the cross on the battlefield itself within 1916. And the other photograph on the right hand side of the cross is the commander of the 16th Irish Division, Major Bernard Hickey from North Tipperary.
Yeah.
Now, the cross was taken back to Ireland in 1926, and it was taken here to the War Memorial in 1937. Yeah. And it's been here from 1937 until 2006, when it went back to Ginchy for the 90th anniversary of the Battle of Ginchy. Now the cross on the top of it's a 15-foot Celtic cross, and
15 foot in height.
And on the top of the cross there's a shamrock on the top of the cross carved out, and across the main arm of the cross it's carved the 16th Irish Division. And as I say, they were the division that fought from Ireland along with the 36th Ulster Division. 28,186 died from the 16th Irish Division. Jeez. And the 36th Ulster Division lost 22,200 men, as far as I know, from the 36th Ulster Division.
Well, how do you do, young Willie McBride? Do you mind if I sit here down by your graveside and rest for a while, neath the warm summer sun? I've been walking all day and I'm nearly done. I see by your gravestone you are only 19 when you joined the Great Fallen in 1916. I hope you died well and I hope you died clean. Our young Willie McBride, was it slow and obscene? Did he beat the drum slowly? Did he play the fife slowly? Did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? And did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest?
Well, Mike, we're in another one of these book rooms. I mean, this one's got fantastic memorabilia on it. Absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about, the different uniforms that are in the four corners here first?
Yeah, certainly, Michael. Yeah. If you look up at the top uniform there on your right-hand side, it is Enniskillen Fusiliers captain's uniform. And you'll see the Maguire Castle of Enniskillen engraved on the buttons.
Yeah.
The one on your right-hand side, on this side here, is Signals and Engineers. An older unit of the British Army.
Yeah.
This one on this side here is the Royal Medical Corps uniform. Same, there's a snake and a sword for the buttons that depicts it's from the Medical Corps. It's a captain's uniform again. And the one over here in the far corner on the top shelf here is a Dublin Fusiliers uniform, a captain's uniform again.
Yeah.
You'll see them on the buttons of the Dublin Fusiliers uniform. You'll see a lion on top of an elephant, which depicts the Madras and Bangalore regiments where the battalion itself was formed in India itself. And on the lower section here we have five glass cases of medals and certificates, all left in by family members over the years. A collection that was built up over the years.
Yeah.
You'll see two brothers there on the medals themselves, the two Borns, Dublin Fusiliers.
There's three collections of three. Well, they're the same medals.
There's three medals.
Procedure was it usual procedure like to hand out these medals?
Well, these medals would have been campaign victory medals and so on that to depict that he took part in different campaigns of the First World War. You can see the victory medal there with the French colours on it, and the King George medal there on the end there of itself. Mm-hmm. And you'll see within the glass case here, you can see Bibles, training manuals, water bottles, a Christmas card from the 16th Irish Division itself, ID, dog tags, memorabilia itself, letters, postcards. Well, if we go here on the wall, Michael, there's a photograph on the wall of the Irish Victoria Cross winners of 1915, and you'll see that the young chap down on the left-hand side in the photograph, Robert Morrow, he won the Victoria Cross at the Battle of Ginchy.
He looks very young.
He's young. Well, I think the average age would have been about 20. I think he was 23 years of age, Robert Morrow himself, when he was killed in action. I think the average age on the books is roughly around 23 to 24 years of age. But the youngest soldier we have on the books is John Condon from Watford. He was 14 years of age. And if you look there in the glass cabinet there, there's a photograph of John Condon's grave in Pau Capelle Cemetery in Belgium, and he died on the 24th of May 1915, age 14. He would have been, as far as I know, he's the youngest soldier to die in the First World War.
There's a lot of sadness here.
There's a lot of history attached to the War Memorial itself, all in all, and there would be a lot of personal stuff left here. Even so many years after the war, you'll get people coming up here to trying to trace their relatives, and we try to help them out as much as we can here at the OPW. Give them whatever information we have available. As I said, we have 49,400 names on the books. But if we can't find a name, I would check out the Commonwealth War Graves Commission website. They have 1.7 million names on their records of all that died within the two wars, First and Second World War. And it's also handy. Their website is also handy for finding out where the soldiers are buried. And in the other cabinet down here, you can see another poet, famous poet, John McCrae, Dr. John McCrae, the Canadian poet. He immortalised the poem "In Flanders Fields Where Poppies Grow." There's a photograph of him here. He was killed at the Somme battlefield. He was a doctor, Dr. John McCrae. That's where more or less the poppy tradition comes from, his poem. And then you have another photograph here of It's a Long Way to Tipperary, and more or less immortalised by the Connaught Rangers in their marching song at the First World War. The song was nearly always associated with the First World War.
There is a further fourth book room in the grounds of the War Memorial Gardens, which houses plenty of World War II memorabilia, and I'm sure Michael, or his colleagues Dennis and Greg in the Office of Public Works, will gladly permit any of our listeners to view these timeless collections. As it is, I could make a show which would last for hours with the amount of information and knowledge Michael Farrelly kindly enlightened me with about the War Memorial in Islandbridge in Inchicore. But however, there's only so much one can fit into a half-hour show. But do go along to Islandbridge yourself. It's truly worth a visit to experience the sombre and humble atmosphere which radiates from the gardens. And so with that, I must take my leave from today's programme. But first I want to thank Michael Farrelly again for his contribution, the OPW for allowing me to do the recording at Islandbridge, while I also wanted to acknowledge using the musical talents of Shane McGowan with Waltzing Matilda, the late Count John McCormick with It's a Long Way to Tipperary, and the Fury Brothers with Davy Arthur, and their renditions of Gallipoli and the popular Greenfields of France. I'm Michael McGee, and you've been listening to History on Your Doorstep.
Ah, young Willie, my bride, I can't help wondering why to those that lie here, no, why did they die? And did they believe when the answer to come? Did they really believe that this war would end war? Well, the sorrow, the suffering, the glory, the pain, the killing and dying were all done in vain. For young Willie McBride, it all happened again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Did they beat the drums slowly, did they play the fife slowly, did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? Did the pipes play the flowers of the forest? Did they beat the drums slowly, did they play the fife slowly, did they sound the death march as they lowered you down? Did the band play the last post and chorus? And did the pipes play the flowers of the forest?